Alright, welcome everybody to my killer tier list as of the patch right after Deathslinger comes out. It had just been the mid-chapter patch a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to talk about what I think the killers are the best in my opinion. Like I said, it is in my opinion, so please take this with a grain of salt. You can think however you want to. This is just how I think. I have a reference sheet of my tier list that I already built, but that will be the only thing that I have as a reference. Everything else I'm going to mention, like why I think so, and then if I think a killer needs a change, that being a buff or a nerf, I will mention that as we go through the list. I have no idea how long this video is going to be. Part of me thinks it's going to be really long, part of me thinks it's going to be short, could be medium. Just kind of, sit back, relax, let me know what you agree with and disagree with. And let's start with Clown here. So Clown will be our first killer here in F tier. And I know a lot of people dislike Clown like me. I find him very boring to play against. It's the same exact play style. Run to a pallet, throw it down, maybe try to get in a loop or two before he throws down your bottles as he reloads and kicks the pallet. That's pretty much how every single pallet of every single game is played with Clown. It's just a very boring playstyle. He has zero map pressure, considering his ability is only chase based. I've seen people try to like yeet bottles at gens, but like it's a strat that doesn't work. And he just, not only is he not fun to play, he's not fun to play against. Very boring aspect killer. He is 115, so that does give him a kind of advantage in that area. But he is, without add-ons, a very shit killer. And I forgot to mention, I will be going and basing this tier list off of killers without their add-ons. This will be just base power. Because, Ear doesn't hatchet. Huntress is, in my opinion, the strongest thing in the game. So she would be at the very top S tier with those add-ons. So we're not going to be talking about add-ons. We will just be... I can mention that the killer will have better ability with add-ons, but it will not affect my tier list in the slightest. So yeah, a change to Clown. I don't really know. There's not much you can really do to him. Maybe give him an extra bottle by default. Maybe expand the range by default. There's not really much you can do with his power, considered it's already got like its purpose. You can't really change much about it without reworking him. So yeah, there is Clown for you guys. We're going to go on to Deathslinger here. Deathslinger is going to be my first in B tier. I would have put him in A tier, but I kind of wanted to put him behind some of the other people I have in A tier. Deathslinger is very, very strong. He can counter many, many loops in the game. The ability to drag a survivor away from the strong loops that they are given makes a humongous difference. Sorry for the Steam overlay in the bottom right. Nothing I can do there. So yeah, the ability to cut off loops or bring survivors to you is a very, very good ability. He has a smaller hitbox than Huntress, so he can shoot through areas that she cannot. He is 110, limiting his map pressure, along with him not being able to yeet hatchets or yeet his ability, also dragging down his map pressure. But he is a fairly good killer when it comes to control over a chase, which he does remind me of old Legion, whereas he may not be extremely broken or strong, but he is very good in chase as long as you can aim your gun. Survivors have no idea if he has a bullet in the gun or not. He doesn't have to have a wind-up animation, so he can just aim in quickly and shoot. The only things that keep him from being at a higher tier is the ability for survivors to find the smallest nook and cranny to disable his ability and then make him stunned for 4 whole seconds. Deathslinger, to play him optimally, requires a lot of or he doesn't require, but it makes it a lot easier, the reload add-ons and the real speed, or even the ones, I don't know if they have one, but I think there's one that makes it harder for survivors to get off of the chain. So he's a very good killer. He is not add-on reliant. He has a decent ability at start, but if I had to make a change to him, I'd probably make it so his real speed, or like how hard it is to break the chain, it's a little bit harder by default, and maybe increase the reload speed. But right now I think he's in a very good place, and I would not change much about him. Next, we're going to go to Demogorgon. I'm going to put him right behind Deathslinger right now. Demogorgon has a very strong kit if used correctly. He can have map control with his portals. He has a lunge attack that can cut off several loops. And he can actually when he holds down his shred button, he can have information on where survivors are around the map. So if you put him near generators and survivors are near gens, you can get a little bit of an information boost on where some of the survivors are. Demogorgon has a very versatile kit. He has 115 movement speed. He's he's one of those killers where if you know what you're doing and you're playing against not a complete optimal 4-man survivor with friends, he can be strong. However, if you can't play him well, he normally gets shit on pretty hard. Which is unfortunate because he's very fun to play and play against. He's a very, very balanced killer, and if I had to change anything, I think he's very balanced. I don't think he needs any changes where he is right now, but if I had to choose, maybe give him an extra portal by default. Other than that, there's nothing I would do to change him, and I just want to make sure real quick that this is recording. It is. Okay, good. That would have been great if it was not. Had very fun to restart. But yeah, Demogorgon is a very good killer to have in this game. Very balanced, very fun to play as and against. He is not add-on reliant. So yeah, he's pretty good there. Next we have Doctor, and I'm gonna put him right behind Demogorgon there in the B tier. That's half the killers in B tier, so don't worry, not every killer is gonna be in B tier. Doctor, before his buff, which was last chapter, I believe, I would easily put down in D tier. Just having to switch through the modes and being slow for a while wasn't extremely strong. But with all the quality of life improvements, I actually think he is very strong now. The fact that he can be in 115 at all times, he has an increased shock range, and the cooldown is a little bit slower, or like it's a little bit faster, I guess I should say, than before, so it makes the whole shock and cut off loops easier. His ability to shut off loops is very strong in chase, and he also has the static blast now that he can blast around the map, which will give him insight on where survivors are in his terror radius, which is his base status. I think it's just terror radius. He is a very versatile killer, able to track and also stop chase potential. He's very good in both aspects. He's just an all-around pretty decent killer. If you don't know what you're doing with him, he does get shit on pretty easily. He is kind of an add-on reliant killer, especially you could change him from being mediocre B tier to S tier just with Eerie King. But like I said, I am going off of base power. Just know that he is kind of add-on reliant, but he can be strong if you know what you're doing. If I had to make a change to him, I don't really have any changes for him. If I had to, maybe make his static blast a little bit bigger than his terror radius, just for a little more information, or make it so madness goes up a little bit quicker. There's nothing really I would do to change him. He's a pretty good balanced killer. B tier's kind of my spot for fun to play as and against killers. They all have good powers. And yeah, so let's move on to Freddy, which I hate to do, but I'm putting him at the very top of A tier. Freddy used to be a meme in this game, with survivors having God mode for at least 7 seconds, ever at most 7 seconds. Actually, no. With class photo, it'd be 9, I think. So yeah, for 7, 9-ish seconds, sometime around there, every time they miss a skill check, yes, you could not see Freddy, and he could see you anytime you're out of your terror radius. But the ability for survivors to literally not be able to be interacted with, made him a very, very awful killer. Now, with his rework that happened a couple chapters ago, he is a beast. Freddy now has so much map control, it's not even funny. He is 115 movement speed, the ability to shut down loops with his snares. Doesn't completely shut them down, but definitely makes them harder to run and throw down pallets faster. Is very strong. His terror radius not working. I'm not sure if they changed the borrowed time yet to make it so borrowed time works, but I don't think it works still, so he doesn't have to worry about tunneling. He also has his dream lullaby, which is very misleading in the direction of where he is, giving him a presence in his terror radius to everybody around, kind of like almost like spirit prayer beads, but not really. So not to mention his lunge is busted, and I know this definitely should be a mention in here because his lunge is like 1.5 times what it looks like, and he hits you through pallets like there's no tomorrow. So to recap, he has an insane amount of map control. He's 115 movement speed. He has deception in chase. He can shut down loops. He combos with perks so easily. Like, obviously I can't put this in the tier list because it's base kit, no perks, no add-ons, but if you ran like Pop Goes the Weasel with him, all you gotta do is hook someone, teleport across the map, and kick the gen. He is very good at shutting down so many things. So he deserves to go at the very top of A tier, not quite nurse tier or spirit tier, but he is extremely strong. If I were to make a change, first of all, I would turn down the amount of snares he has. I would, and I'm not saying do all of these, I'm saying maybe pick and choose. Take away some of his snares. Make it so he can't just reset it like hags, maybe. Let's see, what else? Make it so his lullaby is a little more discernible at range. Maybe give it a limit on the teleport. It's kind of hard because you'd have to go around to all these different areas of him and nerf them individually, considering he is very strong at a lot of different things. Not to mention, he is a very fun killer to play, but not a very fun killer at all to play against. If anything, he's a meme for being one of the most annoying killers to play against. So yeah, Freddy is very strong. Maybe in need of a change, because rank 1 is just filled with Freddys. It's not even funny. But yeah, that'll be our Freddy talk for now. Since he is a pretty strong killer, he will be at the top of A tier. Our next killer will be Ghostface, my least favorite killer in the game, as some of my friends may know. I'm going to be putting him in C tier. An insta-down ability combined with a very, very buggy ability is decently strong. However, the bugginess goes both ways. A lot of times, both Ghostface and survivors can feel cucked over by his ability at times because of his buggy mess. Ghostface, the ability to take away your terror radius for a period of time and blend in and get free hits is relatively strong. However, he is very loopable considering he doesn't really have anything in chase. Because, yeah, while the undetectable status effect is strong, considering he doesn't have a red stain, a lot of times you could also do the exact same thing just by moonwalking and mind gaming the survivor. So yeah, you may feel kind of cucked over by that if he decides to use his ability during chase just to down an injured person, but you gotta remember that any other killer could also moonwalk and do that exact same thing. He just wasted his ability to get it down. Not to mention he has 0 map pressure, but he also, having that insta down ability puts him in C tier, quite honestly. If I had to make a change to him, I would just say remove him from the game, period. He is so buggy. It is not fun to play as or against Ghostface. I would just straight up remove him from the game. But in all seriousness, just they have to fix the looking to him. That's honestly all his power is, and all of that needs changing. Other than that, I feel like he'd be a fine killer. Um, but yeah, on to Hag. Hag is going to be one of the most controversial killers on this list, considering some players consider her one of the weakest killers in the game, and some killers will put her all the way up in S tier by Nurse. If you are a great Hag player, Hag is extremely strong. If you cannot play Hag well and don't know how to set up her traps, she is extremely weak. So, for this case, I'm going to put her right behind Deathslinger. Um, Hag has a very strong ability to be able to teleport to an area of where survivors were at the click of a button, and now that they fixed the lunge, you can lunge out of it and get hits. You have 10 of these traps, you are 110 movement speed, and base kit is 40 meters teleportation. Now the way you would want to play Hag efficiently is to find a kill area and kind of scatter that area with traps, not really scatter the whole map considering you cannot teleport to all of them without add-ons, but we are not looking at add-ons. But that is very much easier said than done. Hag can be a very rough killer to play, but she can also have a lot of map control in an area. For Hag, she is very, very good at slugging at the right time, but she was also very, very bad at slugging at the wrong times. Because she is 115 and that slower killer it makes it harder to catch up to other survivors. However, if you get a lot of survivors popping traps, you can chain a lot of downs. Now, she also has counters to flashlights, but people don't really use flashlights that often to break her traps, and you can also just crouch around. However, that also slows the game down, so you should always be trapping in front of hooks, not expecting to come back and get a hit, but the crouching speed of unhooking and crouching away slows down the game in and of itself. So yeah, she is a very strong killer when played correctly, and a very weak killer when played incorrectly. I don't really have a problem. I personally hate playing Hag. I hate being slow and very short. Her ability, and I don't really like placing traps and stuff. I'm more of a Oni, Hillbilly, Wraith kind of main. How all those killers just have your ability and you don't have to like place anything or go back to it. But that is just my play style. I prefer not to, put down traps. I don't have a problem playing with Hag. Most of the time, if I get caught at a loop, I just got outplayed. Hag doesn't really feel like you get screwed over because there's a very definitive counterplay and you understand how her ability works. So yeah, Hag is a fairly balanced killer, considering if you're really good with her, like I said, you could do very strong, and then vice versa the other way. If I had to make a change to her, I think she is very, very strong at the moment and very, very weak at the same time. So I don't think she needs any changes. She's relatively balanced. If I were to make a change, though, maybe make it... I would give her maybe an undetectable status effect for like 1 second after she pops. Just make it a little more of a... Actually, no, because her traps emit a terror radius. It's just very hard to do something with such a balanced and intricate killer. So honestly, I'm going to leave it up to no change right now for Hag. So yeah, she will be right behind Deathslinger, considering Deathslinger is a little bit more easier to play and has a more definitive ability. On to Hillbilly, my favorite killer in the game, also one of the strongest, most balanced killers in the game. I'm going to take him and put him right behind Freddy in A tier. Hillbilly, when first picking up Hillbilly, is a very easy killer. He's got a chainsaw, you can zoom around the map with it, and he also has an insta-down with that. 115 movement speed, kind of everything you'd want in a killer, but also in a balanced way. Once you get to the higher ranks, you're going to have to learn how to curve with his saw. When you learn to curve with his saw, it makes him much more of a threat considering any of the loops that he's in. He can curve around. Now there are some shorter loops and longer loops that he won't be able to, but the majority of loops in the game are actually curvable with Hillbilly. You can break pallets faster than kicking. You can zone people with that ability. He just has everything in the same package. However, if you don't, if you get, you can. He's still a very loopable killer, so he doesn't get free insta downs. He's a very balanced killer. I would actually make no change at all to Hillbilly. I think he is perfectly balanced where he is right now. He is strong, but in a very good way, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, Hillbilly, very easy to killer to understand. And that'll be, and wrap up my analysis of Hillbilly. Now, are we about halfway here? 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. We still got about... No, we're not halfway. So, next killer we're going to go on is to Huntress. I'm going to put her right behind Hillbilly. Huntress is a very strong killer, able to cut off loops with her hatchets. She has a ranged ability, however, she is only 115, or 110, I'm sorry, which makes her a little bit slower. She has a good bit of map pressure when it comes to her hatchets, as long as you understand and know where survivors are. She is very good at slugging with her hatchets. I forgot to mention with Hillbilly, Hillbilly is also very, very strong with slugging. Back to Huntress, though. The ability to two-tap people with hatchets with good aim is very strong. The ability to hit survivors from a distance is very strong. However, you have to be precise with her hatchets, and her hatchet throws are not given to you. As long as survivors know how to juke and dodge your hatchets and play the whole mind game hatchet game with you, there is skill and a lot of skill required with Huntress. So she is a high risk, high reward kind of killer, which is alright because I feel like she is also one of the most balanced killers in the game in her current status. So yeah, if I had to make a change to Huntress, I would not make any change at all. She is very balanced in the state she is in. She is not add-on reliant at all. So yeah, she is very strong if you can do well with her. The next killer we're going to be going on is to Budget Hillbilly. The only reason you would ever want to get Bubba is for barbecue and barbecue alone. He is going at the very end of our tier list in the bottom of F tier. He has zero map pressure whatsoever. He is extremely loopable. His chainsaw is literally slower than Survivor's, unless otherwise, because Hillbilly is not. He is, I believe, the same speed, if not a little bit faster. If you bump into anything, which is very, very, very easy to do with Hillbilly, or I mean not Hillbilly, Bubba, Leatherface, he is put in an extremely long cooldown, allowing the survivor to run to another loop, even if they didn't have to use a pallet. Yes, he has an insta-down ability. If you catch a survivor out in the open, they are screwed. But how often in the state of the game do we catch survivors out in the open like that in the meta we're in, which is not very often. His ability is very lackluster. It's I understand what they're going for, to kill multiple survivors at the same time, which leads to the iconic Bubba face camp, which feels amazing, by the way. But yeah, Bubba, very, very bad killer. I always get frustrated playing him because he's just very, very weak. If I had to make changes, I would make it so he definitely goes faster when he revs his saw. I would definitely lower the cooldown by a lot when he bumps into something, even though there are add-ons for that. But we're talking base kit here. He's a very hard, because he has such a straightforward ability, it's hard to change. But I would make it so he has more of a quality of life improvement there, at least. So yeah, that is that for Bubba. Now we're going to move on to Legion. Legion is an extremely controversial killer. Some people saying he is the worst killer in the game. Some people saying he is very strong. Personally, I'm going to put him right behind Demogorgon and in front of Doctor. Legion is his ability to spread pain between survivors is extremely strong at times. If survivors are all a part of each other, it makes his ability almost useless. However, if you do catch the survivors together, you can get several injures in just a couple seconds and also continue a chase. He can vault over pallets in chases. He is 115 movement speed, and he has a lot of goods and bads. He's got that cooldown, but they made it so scratch marks are visible during the cooldown now, which improves his tracking ability. While he's in his frenzy, he's extremely fast. However, he cannot see... I don't think he can see blood pool. I know he can't see scratch marks, but I don't think he can see blood pools either. I think that might be an add-on. I'm not sure, though. So, Legion has, if played correctly and if the survivors are in a position to be hit by this, he can spread a lot of pain and have a lot of map pressure at that time. He doesn't have the map pressure that Hag or Hillbilly or Demogorgon has. That's why he's behind them. I just say he's in front of Doctor, considering he can spread pain pretty quickly when given the right opportunity. So yeah, if I had to change Legion, I would make it so he could have like one miss when he's frenzying, because sometimes just missing that first frenzy shot loses you the game. Make it so you can maybe have like one miss, or significantly reduce the cooldown. Make it so his ability doesn't completely go down when you miss, considering hitboxes in the way that survivors can juke and auto aim can really cuck you over at times. But yeah, that's really it that I would make for Legion. Now we are on to Myers, and this will be our last killer in the B tier. I'm putting him right at the end by Doctor. Having that insta-down ability that you can charge from any survivor in the map and cuck over other ones is very, very strong. He starts off in a undetectable status effect, and then goes into a 16 meter tear radius, and then up to a 32 in tier 3. He is a stealth 115 movement speed killer. Unless he's in tier 1, then he has 103% movement speed. The ability to have insta-downs. Well, when he's in tier 2, he's essentially just a normal killer with 16 meter tear radius, normal lunge, normal speed. Tier 3, he has an incredible lunge. He vaults significantly faster, and he has subtle little buffs there to help downing survivors. He is very strong in slugging. If many survivors are near when he goes into tier 3, he can pop his ability several times. The only thing is he's still very loopable and doesn't really cut off loops, so I'm putting him behind Doctor because of those aspects. If I had to make a change to Myers, I would make it so he get his tier 3 just a little bit more. I think right now with add-ons it's 6, and with normal it's around 4 or 5. I'm not quite positive on that, but sometimes it feels like you can't get much. Now we are on to Nurse, and you all know where I'm putting Nurse. Even after her nerfs, she is still an extremely strong killer, able to defy all counter plays by survivors to the point where it's only mind games and 50-50s. The ability to blink and teleport and hit survivors at their weakest times is extremely strong. She is one of the slugging kings in my opinion, considering she can down somebody, just teleport and down, teleport down. She's very strong in that aspect. After she hits a survivor in a chase, a lot of killers have to suffer from a cooldown and a boost of speed. Nurse does not have to. She can just immediately blink back to you and chain downs like that. Her counter plays, like I said, are really only... Now that she has her nerf, it makes it so she has to wait a little longer to use her blinks, but her counterplays in this aspect are really just mind games, which you can't really rely on mind games for counterplays. You just kind of get lucky. She is still extremely strong, however, she has a really high skill cap, so in order to be good with Nurse, you have to understand her blinks and be able to play well. So, right now, Nurse is still very strong. I think she's alright in the state she's in. I would maybe increase. See, that's the thing. Increasing the fatigue would be a kind of a no-no to players because nobody likes fatigues, but her ability is extremely strong. So right now, I am not much of a nurse god here. So I'm gonna just stick and say that we have, or at least I have, no opinion towards what they should change with her. I don't really know. She's kind of a hard killer to balance considering her ability completely defies all survivor counterplay. It's just very hard to deal with. With that being said, we're going to move on to Oni here. We only have 6 killers left, and my voice is starting to die. I have no idea how long this video is. Hopefully it's not awful. Maybe you can listen to it while you are working or doing stuff around the house. I don't know. Hopefully you're still watching. So we have Oni, one of my favorite killers in the game. I'm going to put him right behind Huntress because his ability is very unique in the fact that if you have a horrible beginning of the match, which happens often, he's very put back on his ability considering he doesn't have one until he gets blood from survivors, and you got to get that first hit. As soon as you get that first hit, your game starts to become a piece of cake. Chain downing survivors with your ability. You got to do the big bam bam. It's very, very satisfying. You get to roar and just zoom around the map with almost full control over your power, except for 90-degree turns at the end. He is a very, very, very fun killer to play and play against. His ability is not overpowered considering it does have counterplay. He is still loopable. You can use walls and windows in tighter areas to counter it. He is very good at slugging. However, if he picks you up, his ability does go away. You can still work through his abilities too. He has to earn it. So he is a very strong killer and a very weak killer at the same time. Very, very balanced in my opinion. Very fun to play and play against. He reminds me a lot of Hillbilly, considering you genuinely feel outplayed when you get downed by Oni. So I think Oni is in a great spot right now, and we'll keep him there at the end of A tier. Good job, Oni. Our next killer on the list is going to be Pig, which in my opinion will be in D tier. She's not quite F tier considering she does have a little bit of map pressure when it comes to her traps. You can use her ambush attack, which is not an ambush by the way, considering you yell when you're about to do it. You can use that in loops, but it's still very hard to pull off and cannot be used at every loop in the game. She can hide her terror radius, however, she goes much slower, unlike Ghostface, where when you pop your ability, you still move the same speed. Pig is one of the killers where her ability is either very strong or very weak. And even when it is quote-unquote very strong, it is still very counterable. The fact that her whole shtick, that being the traps, is very RNG oriented, makes her a very, very bad killer to play at times. Because you might have a game where all survivors get their traps off in one, on the first one, it's like, damn, my ability did nothing for me. And you can have games where it takes almost all of them 4 times and you have a very good game slowdown. However, she cannot go around the map that quickly to apply that pressure, and she did get that nerf with endgame collapse. Now survivors can escape with the trap as long as it is not active while they are escaping. Pig has always been very low on my list, considering the chase potential and map pressure isn't the best. She is extremely loopable, and her other abilities aren't very strong either. If I had to make a change, I would just put combat straps into her ability and then also keep combat straps so she can crouch and uncrouch relatively quickly. I would make it so she gets a 5th trap by default, considering it is still RNG. Maybe add an extra box and bump it up to 2.5 minutes instead of 2 minutes for the cooldown, adding a little bit more of the map pressure while also not cucking over the survivors. Her ability has potential, just the way they have it implemented right now is not the strongest. But hopefully we see some big changes in the future, because she does have potential, and I guess she's not a bad killer to play against. I don't have a problem with it. I normally enjoy playing against pigs. She can be frustrating to play at times, though. Back down to the final 4, we have Plague, which I'll be dropping right behind Pig. Her ability is very interesting, and there's not really much like it in DBD. Her ability to throw up on objects and infect survivors and make them permanently injured is relatively strong. However, like players like me who play injured and run injured builds all the time do not have to worry about that stuff. She is a very add-on reliant killer, considering her infection time is just laughably low. And I can't remember what it's called. It's not efficiency, but how fast and how well her vomit gets a survivor injured. It is just laughably low. The only time she becomes a menace is when she pops her ability, that being the Corrupt Purge. She would be lower on my list beforehand, but now she has that extra pool at the beginning of the game, so you can still use your ability. However, it's only like a minute, and you could really fuck it up, and the survivors can just keep playing and looping you. Still a very loopable killer, and your ability is... It's just the survivors control your ability, and I don't really like that aspect. If I had to make a change to her, I would start her with always 2 pots of her Corrupt Purge, and I would take away the Apple add-ons, or at least take those adding away from the game. I would definitely increase her infection on survivors, or the amount it takes to get them sick. I would definitely make it so that happens much faster. I would maybe add another debuff to being injured and completely sick, because at this point it's literally just being injured and making a little bit of extra sounds. That's all it is. I would maybe add a debuff to encourage survivors to cleanse, allowing the plague to have more of her ability. But she can be a very frustrating killer to play and play against at times, so that's why I'm going to have her with all of that down here at the bottom of D tier. She has 115 movement speed, but it just doesn't really make up for the fact that her ability is survivor oriented. So yeah, that'll be and will wrap up Plague. Now on to Spirit, who is arguably one of the most boring killers to play against in the game. And I will be putting her right behind Nurse. When she goes into her phase, she has 0 counterplay, or very little counterplay, considering she has a lot of tracking abilities to track survivors, while you have absolutely none. Pallets are no longer safe, really, for you, considering she could just mind game around it. Her ability is very strong. She's 110 movement speed. However, she also has the map pressure by being able to down people relatively quickly, and then also survivors cannot see you, so it makes her movement unpredictable and makes her very strong in that aspect. She does not have an insta down, but the way that she can phase and hit might as well be one. People have said there's like, oh, some of her shards change, but that is, you literally have to be up her ass to see that. And even then, it's just, there's like 1 in a trillion chance that you're going to be like, oh, her shards changed. You know, she pops out because you know she's phasing, and then, oh no, she just can do the same thing to me again. The ability to stand still and mind game survivors is kind of BS, considering you outplay survivors by doing nothing. That is very frustrating for the survivors and is kind of cheesy to the aspect. So, maybe give her a different phasing animation. They just need to allow more survivor killer interaction with her power, because the spirit controls the chase completely. If I had to change something with her, it would definitely be add a little more interaction and allow survivors to have a little more counterplay to her when she's in her ability. That being, maybe change it so there's a different AFK, or like where she doesn't move, give a different animation. That is just completely up to how the developers do that, but I think that would be a good change for a spirit. We are down to 2 killers here, and my voice is killing me at this point, so we're gonna try to maybe wrap it up a little bit more quicker, or a little more quickly, I guess. That's me, Trapper. I'm going to put him right in front of Ghostface there. He is not a bad killer. He is very balanced. However, he can get very screwed over when survivors know where the traps are. The ability to completely shut down several of the strongest loops in the game is very, very strong. However, he has to set up these traps around the map, and with base kit, there's no repercussions for survivors breaking them. He did just get a buff where he can reset them on the ground without having to pick them up, which is more of a quality life improvement than a buff. He can't have them sabotage anymore, but I've literally done it once in my entire time playing DBD, because one of my friends was like, hey, you can sabotage his traps with the toolbox. I was like, oh shit, really? And I did it, and that's the only time I've ever done it. There's no point to that, so I guess it was a buff, even though nobody really did it. He's a killer where if you don't set up in time, or you have a very bad beginning of the game, your game is pretty much over. However, if you do have time to set up and get things correctly, your game will be good. If survivors are very smart and know your trap spots, that's bad. If you play more unpredictable and get traps popping left and right, then he can be more of a menace. However, it takes a lot of knowledge and game knowledge to know where Trapper can be used correctly. So I have a feeling that putting him in front of Ghostface there is good. He's more of the middle, a little bit of lower of the mid-tier list, which I think is perfectly okay where he is. Now on to, actually, if I had to make a change to Trapper, maybe make it so he could always carry 2 traps. Just base kit, and change some of the add-ons to make it so he can't hold like 6. If you added the extra base kit, I think that'd be a good change for him. But now on to our final killer, and my first ever killer main, Wraith. I love Wraith so much, so I'm putting him at the beginning of S tier. Just kidding. He's going down to the beginning of D tier. The problem with Wraith, he is a very simplistic killer. He rings a bell and he goes invisible, except there is still motion. In order for him to get out of his invisibility, he has to ring his bell, which is audible to all survivors within 24 meters, I believe. And then I can't remember if it's 24 meters, and then I think the whooshing sound of him going in and out is 40. Without Windstorm, he is a very pointless killer. I think they should just give him extra Windstorm in his ability. He's still very loopable, even though he's fun to play and play against, except you can get really cucked over while playing him at sometimes, just because he is relatively relatively slow when he is in his ability, and then he still has to ring it slowly and notify all the survivors that he's there and then come out of it. Still very loopable. He is 115, so I guess that makes up a little bit. But he has no insta downs. His map pressure is only good with add-ons, so he has almost no map pressure there. His abilities are just lackluster with no add-ons. So I'm gonna put him there in D tier, a little bit above Pig, because you can still see Pig and see where she's coming from, whereas Wraith can kind of sneak up behind you without you knowing, and he can body block too. That's also something that is worth noting. He can body block some things, but that doesn't happen all the time. If I were to change Wraith, like I said, I would definitely just add in Windstorm, and I think he'll be alright. give him like a green windstorm, or make it so he has what yellow windstorm does now base kit. Because I know he used to be slower, and then they gave him yellow windstorm. They should just give him another yellow windstorm worth of buff to his speed, and I think he'll be all right. Maybe decrease the bell audibility down to 16 meters from 24, and the whoosh sound from to 32 from 40. But those are just very minor changes that might help with his stealth a little bit. Other than that, we are done with the tier list. My voice is killing me. I need to get some water. I have no idea how long this video is, but hopefully it was at least interesting to listen to if you guys are still here listening. And yeah, please feel free to make a video yourself talking about this. I would love to watch it and listen to it and hear your opinions on not only my killer tier list, but your own as well. With all that being said, I want to wrap up the video here and say thank you guys for watching. And this has been a fun time. I enjoyed doing this, but I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night. Peace out.